officer-involved shooting that's hit the headlines in recent years, calls have rung out for change within law enforcement, and it has sparked conversations across the nation. While everyone agrees that safety is paramount, a path forward that affords security to both residents and officers is sometimes murky.
Now, to provide perspective of how a call can escalate in a moment, Erica Craven takes us behind the scenes, aiming for answers.
As incidents unfold, cell phones come out and body cameras click on. The playing and replaying of video can help determine what happened, but hindsight is always 20/20. To investigate the different perspectives from reality to playback, I volunteered to step into some of the same scenarios that North Dakota officers have responded to. But before we'll learn how I'll react, I had to learn the basics. I was first schooled on how to quickly clear my pistol from its holster.
That goes in your holster. Practice that a couple times. Push the button and the gun comes out. But in a life or death situation, you need to be able to get the gun out of your holster. So we practice and practice and practice.
My next lesson, weapon safety.
Never put your finger on the trigger, right? Always keep your finger out.
It took some practice to safely, quickly, and efficiently clear my gun from its holster.
Okay.
I was cautioned that once the weapon is aimed, there's usually no time to think.
I feel like in a high stress situation, this is the part I'm not going to get.
You're 100% right. You should not be aiming in a high stress situation, especially this close with a pistol. You're basically point shooting.
I then strapped on an assortment of protective gear and was taught how to discharge a Glock 17 9mm pistol, the most common weapon used by police departments in the United States. I trained for close contact, shooting situations.
If you're in a life or death situation, your goal is to stop the threat, whether to you or to somebody else. It might take more than one shot to bring a suspect down. When people have their adrenaline going and they might be on some sort of drugs, they might come at you and keep shooting at you, and it might not just be one shot. You might have to shoot once or twice or 3 times. Once they are no longer a threat or danger to you, that's when you stop shooting.
Please? The next step of my training was simulated officer-involved shootings. Scenarios that Bismarck and Mandan police have been called to respond to. We'll see how I handled.
Oh my God. All right, I'm dead.
Or if I survived.
Anybody here?
The life and death exercises I was embedded in.
Come out with your hands up.
In Bismarck, Erica Craven reporting for your News Leader.
More than 1,000 people have been killed in officer-involved shootings in the past year.
While the vast majority may be justified, there's always emphasis on training and responding to deadly and unpredictable situations.
Last night, Erica Craven learned the basics of how police officers respond to a potential threat.
Tonight, she goes into the first real-life scenario that will put her reactions to the test in her series, Aiming for Answers.
When called to act, officers sometimes don't know what they're walking into. Some calls, like this one on July 8th in Fargo, can escalate in a moment. The replay isn't just memory. Actions are highly scrutinized. As I gear up for my first test, I feel the pressure. Mistakes in this line of work can be deadly for an officer or for someone else.
They will hurt and they will leave marks.
Okay.
When you guys train with scenarios like this, how realistic would you say it is?
We try to make it as realistic as possible. That's why we use simulations, we use actors, we even use blood, fake blood. So because the realer you train, the more it helps in real life when that happens, so you don't panic.
To handle these situations, police are required to do at least 60 hours of training every 3 years.
Okay, your first scenario.
I was, quote, dispatched to a domestic abuse call. My goal, de-escalation.
Please? Miss, I will help you. Let's just get to the bottom of this here.
I tried to quickly figure out what was going on with minimal information.
You have no authority here.
Oh my God. All right, I'm dead.
I never drew my gun.
I wanted to go in planning to separate the two people. But when you went out of my line of vision, it made me nervous.
After the first scenario ended with the suspect shooting and most likely killing me, I was determined to not let that happen in the next scenario. The next call, a burglar alarm, was triggered at the gym.
Anybody here?
I tried to talk to someone who wouldn't answer any of my questions.
Right there, let me know who you are and what you're doing here.
Yeah, well, I got something for you.
Oh no! Oh, I shot an innocent person.
After scenario 1, I'd been too ready to shoot.
But you can see how things happen so quickly, and you have to make those split-second decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I got nervous when you breached.
Yes.
Yeah.
As most cops would.
The first 2 scenarios had shown me that my poor reactions had already cost 2 lives.
Hello?
Will I learn from my mistakes in the next scenarios? In Bismarck, Erica Craven reporting for your news leader.
On August 29th, after an internal investigation by an independent agency, Attorney General Drew Wrigley announced the officers involved in the Fargo shooting were justified.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Now, all this week, reporter Erica Craven has brought us along as she's learned what law enforcement officers do to train for life or death situations in her series, Aiming for Answers.
Well, she learned the basics of handling a firearm, clearing a room, and dealt with simulated scenarios. Tonight, we find out if she's learned from her mistakes.
All the equipment in the world and hours of training can't always prepare you for a situation you've never encountered.
You have no authority.
I learned that lesson after I was shot in my first training run, and again
You're the ultimate authority.
after I accidentally shot an innocent person during the second encounter. I had panicked.
With a cell phone.
Every time you go to a door, you have no idea what's on the other side. You don't know if there's 3 people in there, 1 person, you don't know if they have guns, if they don't have guns, how they're going to react to you. But that's real life.
I hoped the third call would be different. It was a 911 hang-up with no other information.
Oh, there's a gun. Can I call for backup, please?
I didn't want to enter the room alone, and I didn't want to shoot. But my hesitation
I'm sorry.
to take control of the situation
All right.
led to another tragedy.
Yeah, well, it was a big deal to me to figure out whether I should have the gun out ready or if that's going to make the situation worse, because you don't want to like have a gun in somebody's face if they're like just like doing nothing wrong, you know.
The next call, a suspicious person trying to get into apartments.
Hey sir, are you locked out of your apartment?
He fired, turned, and fled.
You shot him in the back.
Yeah.
Would you have been justified? Yeah, he was shooting at you.
Yeah.
But how does that look to the media? How does it look to people?
The general public when they
Yeah.
see cops shoot people in the back.
Yeah, it's not great.
Finally, I was called to a convenience store.
Where the clerk has called 911 because there is a gentleman inside with a knife.
Hey Frank, I just want to talk to you for a second.
After a short interaction, the actor turned the knife from himself to me.
I don't want to shoot you, Frank. I'm sorry.
I learned that my communication skills weren't up to the task.
Oh man.
In each scenario, I wanted more information, more time, and backup.
Obviously, I was not an expert by the end, but I think I corrected some of the mistakes that I made early on. But then there was also a double-edged sword where I was kind of primed to act in a certain way. So it was a learning experience, that's for sure.
You have to train in order to serve the public as best as you can.
Agents say the simulated scenario training helps them hone their reactions. It's better to make mistakes in practice than in real
Excuse
life.
me, sir, can you come out with your hands up?
In Bismarck,
Excuse me,
Erica
sir.
Craven
I
reporting
need
for
you to
your
stop
news leader.
walking.